But really what Byron is saying is that for self-awareness, you need three things going for you. You need to be emotionally self-aware, you need to be fairly accurate in what you're thinking and feeling, and you need to have self-confidence. You need those three, is what Byron is saying. And to manage yourself, he said, well, you've got to have emotional self-control, plus either be transparent or flexible, adaptable, or have this drive to succeed, or have initiative, or right down the bottom there is optimism. On the other hand, if you want some social awareness, he says empathy is the key there in his work and his modelling. Empathy is the key. But it would be also helpful if you knew a little bit about the organisation and you had some savvy about the organisation. I had someone who came in recently for coaching. He said, I want to get good at picking the politics in the organisation. I want to get good at picking the politics in the organisation. It's called emotional awareness. And service orientation, how to service. And if you want to get good at relationships, it's about how to influence others. And there are books on influence. Plus, how do you develop others? How do you be inspirational? How do you bring about change? Or how do you resolve conflict or get teams to work and collaborate? But having said all that, there's a qualifier. One size does not fit all, and often there are various combinations of competencies. So there are various, I guess, amalgams that we can put together if we looked at Byron's model. But there's been some more recent work that I want to introduce you to that looks at leadership per se. How is EQ and successful leadership related? How is it related? According to Stephen Stein, a psychologist and CEO of Multi-Health Systems, while there are hundreds of books with formulas for how to be a great leader, there are a few studies of what really differentiates the great leaders from everyone else. Traditionally, leadership has been linked to vision, problem solving, intelligence, technical knowledge and skill. Now, however, there is a great deal of interest in the role that emotional intelligence plays in leadership. What Newman has done in his latest work is suggest that there are 7 major components of EQ at work that define successful leaders. 7 critical ones that define successful leaders. And we need to know what they are. The first one is self-reliance. In the work that he has done, he indicates that successful leaders on self-reliance were 1 standard deviation above the mean in comparison to average leaders. And these were finance leaders who were high performers, they were HR recruiters, and there was a special team for Victoria called the Victorian Leadership Team, who were hand-selected. There are 100 leaders that he surveyed there, so it's an Australian study. And self-reliance is really about being independent, having your own kind of sense of who you are and what's important, rather than being swept along with the tide or going with the flow. People who are self-reliant are much more independent of public opinion. Interesting. Second one, assertiveness. It means that you're not being aggressive on the one hand, or you're not being passive on the other. In fact, I had an engineer who came in recently to see me, and she said, I was fine when I was just doing engineering work, but now I've been uplifted and promoted and escalated up the line to a manager. I've now got to tell people what to do. And she said, I much prefer it over here. And she said, I don't like to delegate, because she said, they might not like me and they may not think I'm too good. So she's having a lot of trouble moving into being assertive. You want to be a leader, you've got to be assertive. And that's 2 things: giving clear messages, respecting the other person's point of view, but giving clear messages, and having self-control over your own emotions to calm your own mind. So even though you've got to give bad news, even though you have to give direction, even though you've got to hand out tasks, that you're actually doing so very clearly and respectfully. And it's called assertion. I really like the saying that says, what you think of me is none of my business. And that's what assertion is. What you think of me is none of my business, but this is what I have to tell you. I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to be loved, but I am here to manage, and I will do that respectfully. What was the third one? Third one was also one standard deviation above the average for successful leaders, and it was optimism. Optimism. There were three characteristics for optimism. The first was they look out for the benefit in every situation. So what's the benefit here? What's the pluses? Secondly, if things went wrong, what do you think they did? If things went wrong and there was a problem or difficulty, what do you think they did? What do they look for? The opportunity. They looked for the lesson. They looked for the lesson. What does this teach us? Rather than getting too overcome by it all. And thirdly, they looked at the task to be accomplished rather than focus on the negative emotions such as fear and disappointment and anxiety and so on.